There have been other figures, of course, near the Russian president who have been saying that this would be a dramatic escalation on the American part and would show that they were taking sides with Ukraine and no longer acting as a broker for peace in the middle.
It is the Trump Dump. It is the evening edition with you until 10 o'clock. Now, at this point in the show, we go through the latest US politics news from the White House, Washington and beyond. And joining us from Washington, the US Assistant Editor for The Times, David Charter. Good evening, David.
Good afternoon from Washington, D.C.
Good, lovely to have you with us. A couple of stories to pick up from the weekend, first of all. And this is I suppose a bit of definition, a bit of certainty from Donald Trump over Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, which everyone recognises would make an enormous difference to the war effort over there on behalf of the Ukrainians. He said, again, perhaps in firmer terms, he's not considering supplying them, Ukraine seeking the missiles for their capacity for long-distance strikes. It comes after reports from the Pentagon that they told the White House the US had enough Tomahawks stockpiled to supply them to Ukraine. That was a concern before.
Your administration provide Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles? Is that something that you're not considering that?
No, not really.
Mr. President,
Trump also said he might change his mind. What might he be waiting for, David?
Well, it's very hard to tell because the final word is with him. And we learned that just a couple of days before. It's probably why the question came up on Air Force One. That, as you say, the Department of War had been reviewing the US stockpile of these cruise missiles, which can go more than 1,000 miles, and of course would bring Moscow within range of Ukraine. But so that really left just the final word with President Trump, because before when it was suggested by Zelensky on his latest visit, Trump had said, well, we'll consider it, but we may need them for our own purposes. We may need them for our own deterrence. And that seemed to be the main stumbling block he was putting up. Well, of course, we know the day before or shortly before Zelensky's last visit, he had a long phone call with President Putin. And although in public, I think Putin has been suggesting that it makes no difference to Russia what weapons Ukraine has got, there have been other figures, of course, near the Russian president who have been saying that this would be a dramatic escalation on the American part and would show that they were taking sides with Ukraine and no longer acting as a broker for peace in the middle. So maybe that's filtered back through the White House, that Trump thinks it would position him too close to Ukraine. That's the best guess at the moment, because there's no sign from Putin, of course, of ending the war. It seems that very slowly the Russians are grinding forward in Ukraine.
There was also a comment from Donald Trump at the weekend that there could be US troops on the ground in Nigeria or airstrikes. Why is Donald Trump threatening military intervention on this one?
I think this is to do with his base in some way, because it's the Islamist terrorists in Nigeria who've been killing Christians. And some disturbing videos, of course, have popped up on social media. This has caused really deep concern among some of the Christian nationalist base with Trump, but it's also at odds with the America First supposed policy of non-intervention around the world. However, the America First is, as Trump has suggested, whatever he says it is, really. And so he's been doing a lot of intervention around the world. But when he says it's in America's interest, it becomes America First. So he says he's asked the Department of War to prepare plans to strike the Nigerian Islamists and kill them if they don't stop killing Christians. That's what he posted at the weekend.
Wow. OK, I'm going to move on to domestic issues. And there's been some significant news today on food aid benefits, hasn't there? This is after two judges ruled last week that the Trump administration must use contingency funds to pay for the benefits in November during the government shutdown. They had been due to expire, hadn't they?
So We got with the end of the month, there was no more federal funding programmed for what they call SNAP benefits. So that's the supplementary nutrition benefits that are paid to over 40 million Americans. 42 million people rely on this benefit to be able to pay their supermarket bill every week. And their cards, because it's transferred to a plastic card, they were going to stop being topped up unless they somehow found some money down the back of the sofa during the government shutdown, which rumbles on, which means that no new money can be assigned. So there have been various court cases brought. The judgment seems to be that it's the Agriculture Department. They must raid a contingency fund to find some money. The Agriculture Department says they found some money, but not all of it. So it seems that partial payments will go through, which will help. But this just shows that the government shutdown, the longer it goes on, the more it really starts to bite, and people feel it in their everyday lives. And that may concentrate minds in Washington towards a settlement.
Yeah, it's true. The House Speaker saying that issuing SNAP contingency funds not as easy as hitting go send on a computer. I mean, this is one of the big stories of shutdown. We shouldn't underestimate this. It may be related to food stamps, food benefits, but so many Americans rely on them. It has really caught the imagination, hasn't it, over the last week or so in terms of news coverage. It has dominated hugely.
Yeah, one in eight Americans or US residents, and they get an average of $180 a month, which really is to help with a large chunk of their food payments, which does show you the level of poverty that in the world's largest economy, that they rely on this. It's the shutdown just throw a real spotlight on American life and just how much people live week to week in America. And the politicians will really feel this if they can't find a resolution. And so all the pollsters are frantically trying to find out who are people blaming. Are they blaming the Republicans or are they blaming the Democrats? It's pretty much split, to be honest. I suppose the Republicans have been taking slightly more of the blame because they are the ones with the majorities in Congress. They're the ones in charge. But of course, the Democrats have refused to sign off on their budget because they say it doesn't do enough to replace healthcare costs that are being cut for the poorest. So it's always the poorest Americans who are on the sharp end of all of these decisions. And well, I'd be interested to see the turnout. Actually, we've got elections tomorrow night. Not many. We've got the big New York mayor election, which is really a thing on its own. But we've got some governor elections in New Jersey and Virginia, and I'll be interested to see the turnout, to be honest, with people still sticking with the politicians when they're in such a mess in Washington.
Yes, I've been looking at pictures of the New York mayoral candidates doing a bit of a walkabout in the city. Donald Trump clear. This is him speaking to CBS that he'll not allow himself to be extorted by the Democrats to end the shutdown.
I'm not going to do it by being extorted by the Democrats who have lost their way. There's something wrong with these people.
So then what happens on November 15th when the troops don't get a paycheck?
Schumer is a basket case, and he has nothing to lose. He's become, I just left Japan, he's become a kamikaze pilot.
Sounds like it's not going to get...
Look, just hours before the food assistance programme was due to expire, Donald Trump was, holding a lavish party with this theme. Not immediately obvious. It was a Great Gatsby-themed party, and he's come under a lot of criticism for this, hasn't he?
Well, the social media backlash was immediate, and it was a bit of a gift to Trump's critics, really, to have a Great Gatsby-themed Halloween party at Mar-a-Lago with lots of wealthy members of Mar-a-Lago in their finery, in their black tie outfits, so easily comparable to what F. Scott Fitzgerald was writing about, the decadence of the rich in the Roaring Twenties. Well, we're in the Trump 20s now, 100 years later, of course. In fact, it is the 100th anniversary of The Great Gatsby. And the warning signs are there for the economy as well. I'm not suggesting we're going to have another Great Depression, but we've just talked about how many people are living below the breadline in America, and there are millions and millions of very unhappy people out there who feel their government is letting them down. And it wasn't a good look, so put it that way, to have this lavish party on the very day. This was on at the end, obviously Halloween, the 31st, the very day that the money ran out for food benefits.
Yeah. There was some controversy I was reading about earlier, but I didn't quite get to the bottom of it, about a woman in a large martini glass and whether it was a fake photo or not. I don't know whether anyone got to the bottom of that one, or even whether it featured over there or not.
I'm not across the martini glass controversy. Well, so we've got plenty of controversies, but that one's passed me by.
Could be a bit of fake news, who knows? Let's talk about the tele-rallies that Donald Trump is planning to hold in New Jersey and Virginia tonight, hoping to influence the outcomes. You've talked about them already, the governor races. Former President Barack Obama appeared at a rally in support of the Democratic candidate Abigail Spanberger and used the opportunity to lay into the president.
We've got a president who thinks it's okay to use the Justice Department, just for example, to use the Justice Department to go after his political opponents. And wait. Here's a rule. You can't boo. You got to vote. They won't hear you if you're booing, but they'll hear your vote.
Former President Obama there. What is a tele-rally? How do you define it? It's not something we have here, or certainly not by that name, David.
No, this is Donald Trump's contribution to the two governor races in New Jersey and Virginia. It's basically on the telephone. He's not turning up. The reason is because I think the Republican campaigns have judged if he does show up for one of his rallies, it will be more off-putting for voters than motivating for his base in those states, which are blue states. They both voted for Kamala Harris. The Democrat candidates both seem to be ahead in polling, but it's getting pretty close in New Jersey. And Trump would obviously love to win in a state where he's got one of his main residences in Bedminster, New Jersey. But it would be a surprise. And the Democrats are hoping to revive the party, revive their fortunes by getting two wins in those two governor races.
Well, look, thank you so much for being with us, David Charter, who is US Assistant Editor for The Times. Plenty to look forward to, and we'll cover more on those races, including the New York mayoral race, on tomorrow's show. David, always a pleasure. Thank you. You can read David's work at thetimes.com and in the paper. And of course, the wider political team out in the US as well. There's daily coverage from them in the paper and, of course, across the website, thetimes.com.